The reason why I'm covering today's topic, Gunhed, is because I'd seen it once before and I really enjoyed it, and thankfully, watching it again, I still enjoy it. The film was released in 1989 and was a Toho Sunrise Bandai Kadokawa production. It was produced by Tomoyuki Tanaka of Godzilla movie fame, with visual effects by a student of the great Eiji Tsuburaya, Koichi Kawakita, who worked on a lot of Godzilla movies and Ultraman TV shows. One of the primary reasons I saw this movie in the first place was because Shoji Kawamori was the mechanical designer, who is credited in English as Masahiro Kawamori, which I believe is his legal name. Plus, it looks like a kaiju movie, but with giant robots. That sounds awesome. The film is directed by Masato Harada, who wrote the film with James Bannon, who has mostly worked in TV. Another reason I know about this film is, of course, the music video Mind Phaser by Frontline Assembly, where footage from the film is used. Now, before I get into the movie, I have to add that on the ADV Films DVD, the opening credits credit the director as Alan Smithee. This is bullshit for several reasons. First, you can see that in the footage here, the Alan Smithee credit is literally pasted on, but in the closing credits, Masahiro Harada is properly credited. I don't think Harada disowned the film, as he appears in the documentary on the making of the film. Sadly, it's only in Japanese, so I don't know what's being said here, but I doubt he stated at any time.
参考にしたけども、持っていったらば現実的なそのバジェットに収まるのかっていう。でなおかつそのガンヘッドっていうロボットの特性を生かすためには的中突破ものを。
Plus, why would a Japanese director use the Alan Smithee credit? That's a Directors Guild of America thing. I read somewhere that ADV Films put the Alan Smithee credit on there as a joke. That doesn't surprise me given how half-assed the ADV DVD is. First of all, the ADV Films DVD states that the film is 90 minutes. This is a lie. It's 100 minutes. Unless the Japanese TV version is hidden somewhere on the disc, which is 90 minutes, this is incorrect. It also says that the film is presented in 16:9. This is also a lie. The film is presented in 4:3 letterbox as shown here. Fortunately for your sakes, as well as your eyeballs, as well as mine, I will not be using footage from that disc. I will use footage from the Japanese Blu-ray, which looks fantastic. And I will be using the original audio track. You know, where the English-speaking actors speak English and all the Japanese actors speak Japanese and somehow everyone understands each other. Yeah, I don't get it either. The movie begins with two different modes of exposition, one in text right here, and another in narration. But the text version pretty much goes as follows. It states that in the 2030s, Tex-Mexium was discovered. Yes, that is a word I actually said, and it allows the world to be controlled by supercomputers. But this substance was kept under heavy guard at nuclear facilities due to potential misuse. The text also states that due to depletion of natural resources, it led to the scarcity of materials to build computers, so conductive plastics and computer chips are more valuable than gold, and treasure hunters go and search for them, even in forbidden zones. Computer chips worth more than gold. Don't they deplete in value as they're being used? Whatever. And in narration, yes, the narration is in English, it states that a company called the Cybertech Corporation on Island 8J0 created a computer called the Chiron 5 in a facility that was also used to make robots. The Chiron 5 would basically manage everything, and the only humans needed there are the custodians, which will look after the Chiron 5 and their families. But of course, following the Terminator formula, the Chiron 5 went rogue, became self-aware, and declared war on the world.
The Allies dispatched a Gunhed battalion to 8JO. The Great Robot War began.
But the Gunhed battalion was defeated, and then suddenly, the Chiron 5 went silent for over 13 years.
A deep silence has surrounded the island. It has existed under a veil of mystery, almost forgotten by the world. Until now.
Okay, visually, this film is definitely following the template of both the Terminator and Aliens. And speaking of the Terminator, in this film, it doesn't seem like Chiron 5 has wiped out all of humanity yet. It hasn't gotten a hold of all of our nukes and blown us all to pieces, is what I'm saying. We get introduced to our team of treasure hunters on a gunship called the Marianne. Quite literally, the only ones whose names you need to know are Brooklyn, who's sitting in the pilot seat here, and his sister Bebe. The rest will all get killed off within a half hour of this movie starting. I'm not joking. One of the major points in this movie is that Brooklyn has to get over his fear of being in the pilot seat in order to succeed. There's a joke here and there that he needs to pop his cherry.
Shit, I'm just tired of watching him jerk off. ブルックリンはメカだよ。パイロットじゃないよ。だけど俺の部下ならメリアン乗りこなさなきゃ一人前じゃねえんだよ。
Which reminds me of this bit from Outlaw Star.
またベッドでゆっくり話してもらおうか。 役に立つのか？チェリーじゃ話にならないよ。
ああ、やだね、大人たちの下品な会話は。
立たないんですか？立たないんですか？残念ですね。
So yeah, this group's main mission is to go in and get computer chips, but Brooklyn has the idea of going in and trying to steal Gunhed parts.
思ったんだけどチップより高く売れるぜ。
何が？
ガンヘッド。
重すぎる。
Gunhed parts get a good price if it's still here.
Before going in, they see the wreckage of a Texas Air Ranger helicopter. Here's why. There's a bioroid loose inside the facility, and it starts killing off our cast of characters one by one. Seriously, 2 of them die instantly right here on the landing site, and 2 die in this elevator. After the survivors live through the encounter with the bioroid, they encounter a surviving Texas Air Ranger, Sergeant Nim, played by Brenda Bocke. Yeah, she was in a movie that I covered previously on this channel. It's called Solar Crisis. She basically plays the girlfriend of Peter Boyle's Arnold Teague, who also in the US cut might have had a previous relationship with this guy, Dr. Haas, who was trying to warn everybody that the solar flare was real and it was going to fry the Earth. Yeah, this little bit was added for the US cut. In the Japanese cut, it doesn't exist, although there is something of a rivalry between them. But I also remember Brenda Bocke from a movie called Tales from the Crypt Demon Knight, an underrated movie in which Billy Zane just steals the whole show.
Fuck this cowboy shit! You fucking ho-dunk, po-dunk, well then there, motherfuckers!
I should also add that in the manga adaptation of Gunhed, Nim is a corporal, not a sergeant. Oh, I almost forgot. There is actually a manga adaptation of Gunhed. It was done by Kia Asamiya, who also worked on Silent Mobius, and it's pretty good. It's not rare or anything either. You can pick it up on eBay for a good price, and it's in 3 issues. This guy right here gets killed after an encounter with floating sound-activated mines, and of course being taken out by the bioroid. And yes, this guy has a weird insult that he says twice throughout the film, which doesn't make any sense.
Sushi slop weirdos, man.
Sushi sloppers.
Come on, you sushi sloppers!
I don't know what he's referring to when he says this, but let's move on. Our surviving members go to the Chiron Dome and see on a monitor that there's 48 hours remaining. What does that mean? We'll find out. The reason why Nim is there is because the bioroid she is hunting stole a precious vial and returned to 8JO in order to use it. Her mission is to retrieve it and, if possible, destroy the bioroid. Since Brooklyn and Bebe are treasure hunters, they try to take the vial from Nim. Things start to go wrong quickly. Bebe ends up falling into this green water that somehow absorbs her into the system, and for some reason, as we'll see later in the film, she becomes part of the interface of the bioroid. Your guess is as good as mine. So Brooklyn and Nim have to leave the Chiron Dome with the bioroid hot on their tail. To make matters worse, a huge machine breaks in and gives chase. Fortunately, thanks to Nim's gadgets, they're able to escape safely. Brooklyn wakes up and encounters a couple of kids. A boy named 7 and his sister 11. Are they named after 7-Eleven? I mean, I know there's a lot of them in Japan, but really? Anyway, they are the 2 surviving children of the custodians that were left to manage the Chiron 5. Basically, these 2 kids are Gunhead's version of Newt from Aliens. Yes, in the English dub, these kids, especially 7, are a bit annoying. 11's mute, she can't talk. But in the original audio track, he's not that bad. Now, while admittedly in this section of the movie the pacing slows to a crawl, some important things do happen here. First, Brooklyn finds a pretty well intact Gunhed unit that he wants to put to good use in order to fight off that giant robot from earlier, which is going to make hell for them as they try to make their escape. Nim, on the other hand, just wants to complete her mission.
My God, look at this junk. You're talking weeks to collect the parts and months to put them together, so forget it. I know what I'm doing, let's go.
And 11 is going to help her do that. Well, that and for some reason she's being pulled towards the Chiron Dome, for reasons that will make some sense later on. Secondly, they're able to use a computer on the Gunhed unit to learn that the Chiron 5 stopped fighting humanity 13 years ago in order to wait for them to complete developing Tex-Mexium. And when a specific keyword is delivered, the Chiron 5 will use Tex-Mexium to interface with all the computers on Earth and therefore control humanity that way. I think. It's not really explained all that well. Sergeant Nim's solution to this is just to leave with the vial so the Chiron 5 can't complete its task. But Brooklyn understands that in order to really successfully escape, they also need to destroy the Aerobot, which is what this thing is called. He's initially reluctant to pilot, but after some encouraging words from Nim...
You know, the true hero doesn't think about what he's doing. Doesn't even know he's a hero. Does things because he knows he has to.
he finally gets the courage to do so. Oh, and the Gunhed unit can talk to him. But Brooklyn has to act fast. The Bioroid manages to recover the vial from Nim in a confusingly edited sequence. Yeah, that's something I have to add about this movie. Some of the editing in this movie is quite questionable, and the first time you see it, you're kind of just going, what? It's like the beginning here in the elevator where this bearded guy gets killed off really quickly, but you're not quite sure what happened. There's several moments like that in the film. Now Brooklyn, Gunhed, and Seven have to make their way up to the Chiron Dome. I like how this particular mission is an adventure in its own right. They have to make their way up an elevator shaft while dropping bombs to hide their movements as much as possible from the Bioroid, as it and Chiron can detect them via sound and unusual vibrations. And they even have to avoid the occasional torpedo from the Bioroid and sends it out in the form of an energy ball, which is weird, but I'll take it. They even have to cross an oil canal while avoiding enemy fire.
なんだよお前。なんで入る前に一言相談しねえんだよ。完全密閉じゃねえんだぞ。
If I remember right, you chose this route, Brooklyn.
And despite failing at one point to get the fuel that was needed, Gunhed reveals that he has his own version of Mr. Fusion from Back to the Future Part 2.
My sensors detect the presence of a fuel-like substance in the vicinity. It's in those vessels. My reactor can be turned to metabolize any ethyl alcohol variant, including whiskey.
Or at least he's 10 years or so ahead of Bender the robot. Like I stated before, Shoji Kawamori worked on this film. He designed the Gunhed, the Aerobot, the dropship called the Marianne, and even the Chiron Dome. And of course, like his designs in Macross, it has to be a transformable mech. Well, in some ways, it goes from tank mode to a kind of standing mode. And I love how this movie built a full-size one for the actors to work around. It's really cool. But if there's one design I wish they would have improved upon better, it would have been the Bioroid. In the movie, it just doesn't look very good. It looks like a bad guy from a Power Rangers TV show where the main villains would pull out of the trash. The Bioroid design was far superior in the manga. 11 gets away from Nim as she is being lured to the Chiron Dome. Her mouth glows, which is weird, but you find out why. She has the keyword, and once she says it, Chiron will rule the world. Apparently, Chiron put the keyword in her so that way at that time she would be able to say it? Okay. We finally get to the robot battle and it rocks. Koichi Kawakida's training under Eiji Tsuburaya really served him well here, but I imagine this couldn't have been easy to do. And in fact, it wasn't. Not only did he have to choreograph the close quarters combat, I imagine, but he also stated that he closely examined real tanks during their combat exercises, just to get an idea of how something like this would work. I love model work like this, especially when it's done by the Japanese. It's so much fun. It's like BattleBots, only watchable. Gunhed puts up a great fight, but sadly, it's beaten by the Aerobot. However, Brooklyn gets Gunhead's minigun attachment and sets it on his shoulder like Arnold Schwarzenegger from Commando, rigs up some wiring, and delivers the final blow to the Aerobot. Nim makes it just in time and prevents 11 from saying the keyword. And just as the Bioroid is about to do everybody in, Bebe, inside the Bioroid, pulls a grenade, a digital grenade, and kills the Bioroid internally? Okay. Ooh, nice.
You got it back. Us bandits.
Chiron, realizing that its mission was a failure, sets the self-destruct sequence for 10 seconds, but Gunhed rams the Chiron Dome, giving them more time to escape.
I could delay the explosion only for 15 more minutes. Run for Marianne, now.
They escape in just in the nick of time, and they get one final message from Gunhed. Oh, and I forgot to mention, Brooklyn likes eating carrots. That's kind of his shtick throughout the entire movie. Yes, I know, there's tons to make fun of in this movie. There are plenty of problems. But like tons of other tokusatsu or kaiju movies, this story has a ton of nonsense sprinkled throughout it. And things that just happen. But you don't watch these movies for serious high art, you watch them because they're awesome. And Gunhed, despite some pacing problems and questionable editing decisions, is an awesome movie. I really enjoy it. It was better than I ever thought it would be, especially given its reputation that I've seen online, with people either calling it a piece of crap or something they would consider a serious guilty pleasure. I don't really consider this a guilty pleasure, I just think it's a lot of fun. So yeah, check it out, I recommend it.